We need the fire. Back in the mid-1800s, there was a party of explorers in Central Africa that had set out to make maps of their territory. Each day they would explore and then come back to camp, gather sticks, build fires, cook their meals, and go to bed. After following this routine for several days, they returned from exploring one evening to discover little stacks of wood arranged like miniature teepees all around their camp. Perplexed, they asked each other, where did all these little stacks of wood come from? Upon finding even more stacks of wood another evening, they looked up in the trees to see monkeys excitedly chattering away. Then they realized what had been happening. Each day the monkeys had watched the men build their fires and, intrigued by this process, had set out to do the same. They had done a great job, but they had one significant problem. While they put the sticks all together in perfect order, just like the men had done, no matter how hard they worked, and no matter how big their pile of sticks, they still couldn't start a fire. We may laugh, but how often have we been just like these monkeys, great at building forms and models, but seriously lacking in Holy Spirit fire? Carl Bates, one-time president of the Southern Baptist Convention, made a sobering statement that should cause us to search our hearts and pray as never before. He wrote, "If God were to take the Holy Spirit out of our midst today, about 95% of what we are doing in our churches would go on, and we would not know the difference. Yet if God had taken the Holy Spirit out of the midst of the first Christian community, about 95% of what they were doing would have ceased immediately." In Ezekiel 37, we find a valley of dry bones, very dry bones, representing the house of Israel. As the prophet Ezekiel in vision looked over this valley of dry bones, all hope of life seemed forever gone. However, God instructed Ezekiel to prophesy, to speak his word to the dry bones. As he obeyed, God's Spirit entered the dry bones. They not only came together with flesh and muscle, but when God's breath entered into them, they rose up as an exceeding great army. This is the army God needs today. Not a man-made army with physical weapons or artillery, but a Holy Spirit-filled army with God's spiritual artillery. See Ephesians 6. Pleading for the backslidden, sleeping members of God's army, Ellen White writes, "The end is near, stealing upon us so stealthily, so imperceptibly, so noiselessly, like the muffled tread of the thief in the night, to surprise the sleepers off guard and unready. May the Lord grant to bring His Holy Spirit upon hearts that are now at ease, that they may no longer sleep as do others, but watch and be sober." It is evident that God is working in His church today. Millions are coming to the truth, yet there are many more millions unreached with the gospel. Millions locked behind closed doors, locked in tall skyscrapers, or locked in heathen lands hostile to Christianity. The task before us is really quite impossible by human standards. However, it's not up to human standards to complete it, for it will be completed by the power of the Holy Spirit. Thankfully, we serve the God of endless possibilities, our inexhaustible storehouse. But how do we access this inexhaustible storehouse? It is through prayer, much prayer, agonizing prayer, persistent prayer, faith-filled prayer, united prayer, daring prayer, prayers based upon the Word, and prayers based on a personal relationship with Christ. The gospel still possesses the same power, and why should we not today witness the same results?